Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Hi, this is Mahvish Akhtar with an impromptu episode of FemmeEdition, I guess you can say. Although we probably wouldn't put it in FemmeEdition category. We'll put it in our news section. So yeah, we'll wait for a few people to join. So what we will be doing today is I will not be giving you news, right? We'll recap a little bit, but this is not an actual news segment because I know I just said it's going to go in the news category, but what I mean by that is you can go to any news channel. You can go, whatever you fancy. You can go to BBC, CNN if that's what you want to do, or you can go to ARY, Geo, whichever. There's so many options. I'm just naming a few random ones. Or you can just Google for just basic information. But that's not what I'm here to do today. What I wanna do is just kind of talk about things that we had been talking about, that I had been mentioning and we had been discussing a lot in the past, especially 2 years since October 7th, basically 2023. Of course, it was 2023, right? My dates are jumbled, but yeah. But we weren't taking it as seriously as on ourselves. We weren't. हम उसको उस तरह से नहीं देख रहे थे कि those were our issues as well. जब भी बात होती थी, जब भी discussion होती थी, we always took it as that's their problem. Sure, we should help them. Oh, we'll pray for them. Poor people and बेचारे Palestinians. उन बेचारों के साथ और वो बेचारे. Oh yeah, Israel is just such a devil. But it was a foreign problem. And we never recognized, or we refused to recognize, that we had something brewing for ourselves, which now has literally crossed our doorsteps. And this, I'm referring to the Pakistani people who are living in Pakistan right now. And even for people who are not living in Pakistan and are Pakistani, that's your doorstep as well, because you have a connection to this country. And if right now you're thinking, oh, it's not my problem, it's going to become your problem too. Because that was us just a week ago. And here we are today. We ignored it as somebody else's problem. That was the Middle East's problem, right? Just a week, 2 weeks ago. And that's what we're going to talk about. And of course, थोड़ा सा background. हमको Israel, ये सारा Middle East का, Israel का, Palestine और ये सब इसका तो बहुत अच्छी तरह से पता है. But उस सारे में हम अपनी history, अपनी जगह, हम कौन हैं, हमारे नेबर्स कौन हैं, हमारे दोस्त कौन हैं, हमारे दुश्मन कौन हैं, ये सब हम भूल चुके हैं. We feel ourselves so safe and so detached from all this that we cannot get hurt, nothing can happen to us, right? That we never thought this day would come. Abhi bhi, a lot of us are in disbelief. So how did it start? So I'm not going to go into too much detail again. Like I said, April 22nd, there was an attack on tourists on Indian administrated Kashmir. That's how we have to say it, right? That's how we have to say it. 26 people were killed. It was a tourist area. Now, nobody has taken responsibility for that. India blames Pakistan, naturally, terrorists from Pakistan. And Pakistan denies it, of course. It says it has nothing to do with it. India doesn't believe it. They say that we, Pakistani grown terrorist. Of course, Kashmiri, Pakistani grown terrorist, Pakistan, and there's always a conflict, and that's that. Retaliatory attacks to nothing. So India retaliates on the basis of nothing. You see? Now I'm gonna on the 7th and 8th of May, 7th go it started on the Pakistani side of Kashmir. It was a mosque and some other areas, and then there was Sialkot, Multan, I think, and some other areas that some drones or bombs or whatever were dropped. Again, and some people, of course, people were killed. 26 people were killed in the Indian administrated Kashmir, and then there were a lot, of course, people were killed when they attacked Pakistan as well. Now, why it happened in that area, the Indian Kashmir, Pahalgam. Now, nobody knows why it happened. Nobody knows who those people are. There are speculations. That's another detail. Again, Pakistan they have not been able to find through, they have not caught anybody. किसी को अभी उन्होंने पकड़ा नहीं है. कोई इन्वेस्टिगेशन के थ्रू प्रूव नहीं हुआ है कि पाकिस्तान से उनमें से किसी का भी, जो नहीं पकड़े गए हैं अभी, उनमें से किसी का भी लिंक बनता है. कोई पकड़ा तो गया नहीं है. पाकिस्तान इज कॉन्स्टेंटली डिनाइंग इट. तो वो जो अटैक 7th और 8th मई को अभी पिछले कुछ दिनों में जो हुए हैं, दे आर कॉलिंग देम retaliation to the 22nd April attacks, but retaliation to what? All right, so we're going to stop here, and we're going to go back, right? We're going to go back, and I'm sure you've heard me say this many times if you're a regular of our, of our lives and our channel and us in general. Okay, we are not standing up for Palestine. We are not standing up for our brothers and sisters in a real way here in Pakistan. Forget the world. I'm talking about here in Pakistan. Pakistanis. We're not standing up for them in a real way. Our enemies are standing at the border waiting for them to get an opportunity because they are getting their training, literally their training, from the same people who are over there doing what they're doing, the ethnic cleansing, the genocide that they're committing right now. And the party that's running in India right now, they have been progressively applying the same tactics within their country and within our boundaries in the same exact way. Of course, the Zionists, Israel has been a little more aggressive because they were able to be. And because India was on more leashes because they're not white. After all, they're brown people. But here, they're amongst the brown people. So the more they're aligning themselves with the Zionists, the more they're able to, the white people, right? The more they're able to push those boundaries. और अब इन लोगों ने, मोदी की गवर्नमेंट ने, इनकी जो क्या है, बीजेपी पार्टी है, let me just check, I have the name here, they saw the benefits and they got more and more aggressive. If you align yourself with those people and you constantly basically wash their feet and just kind of kiss at their feet, you will eventually get to that level where you get some immunity, some kind of कि हम भी ये कर सकेंगे. जो हमें पहले वॉर क्राइम्स इजाज़त नहीं मिलेगी, या पहले हमें ज़रा मुश्किल होती, या इतने धड़ल्ले से नहीं कर सकते थे, शायद हमें करने दिया जाए. और अगर आप पिछले सालों में आहिस्ता आहिस्ता देखते जाएं तो जिस तरह से चीज़ें प्रोग्रेस हुई हैं, and we'll come back to today, but we have to look at how things progressed and got to here. पहले तो although I don't know if many of you know this, what happened in Gujarat, जो massacre हुआ था, that was nothing less than a genocide. He was a very active part of it. And there was a documentary, a BBC documentary, I don't know what it was called. पहले तो इसने नरेंद्र मोदी ने बैन करवाने की कोशिश की थी उस डॉक्यूमेंट्री की, and they didn't make any comments, and they were actually quite upset about this documentary being out there. And the rapists that were actually jailed in that massacre, he freed them later on. So he's basically on the same track. Now come nearer to after this started. After ये October 7th के बाद ये जो शुरू हुआ है, come closer to that, right? जब ये शुरू हुआ है, and these things, hurting Muslims and committing, atrocities against them in the guise of terrorists. Oh my God, they're Islamists, they're terrorists, or ये हो जाएगा, वो हो जाएगा. उसके cover में, the things that have been happening are very similar to the kind of things, हर चीज़ को terrorist कह के, you can just be like, oh, but there were terrorists in between those people. But there could have been terrorists. But we didn't attack them. We attacked a terrorist site. Who's there to to prove or disprove your claim? Who's going over there to look at that? And even over here, यहाँ पे भी, they have killed mostly innocent children and women and elderly men. But who's going to go onto the world stage and explain to them, no, those women and children were not terrorists. They were innocent people. But see, we know that because we are the innocent people right now who are stuck in this mess, right? I mean, the bombs that dropped in Lahore, they were just about 25 minutes away from where I live. My kids were in school. They had an exam today. And I had actually already told them that you guys can just, whenever you get done with your exams, come home. And it had not happened by that time. So I didn't know it was going to happen. Had I known, or had it happened, unko bhejne se pehle, then there was no way I would have sent them. But yeah, they got done and came back right when we started to find out and get news out of, their schools in between our house and where that had happened. All three of those, whatever it was, drones, bombs, whatever. It's all the same. When it drops, there's an explosion and people get hurt. So, anyways, my kids got home safe and sound, alhamdulillah. But then a relative of mine, she calls me, of course in a panic about the kids, and she wanted to make sure that they're home safe. And I asked her, I was like, where are you? Are you safe? Because she lives, at that moment I realized, because I was so, in my head about my children. And when she called, asking me if the kids are home or are they safe, I told her, at that moment I realized she lives very close to where all of this happened. So I was asking her, why don't you come over to my place? It's further away. And she goes, well, this one's happened already. And who knows where the next one's going to be? How do I know next one's not going to be closer to your house? So see, that's how we're affected. There is no military camp. There is no terrorist camp. This is just, us, our kids' school, and all of us moms were like on the group chat panicking about who's going to pick up whose kids, and are you going? Okay, well, you bring my kids home too. Who else is? Did you take your kids to school? Are you there? Are you coming home? Did you get my kids? Did you see so and so there? They're not attacking. Like literally, we know. Just like we know about, of course, their situation is way worse than ours at this point. But just like we knew about the people in Palestine, not just today, not just 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but since 1948, right? We've known their situation. And we have ignored it. We've talked about it in passing. Oh, we should help them or pour them and this and that. And we've passed along. Maybe we've given a few dollars, few rupees, and we've passed along. Move on kiya hai humne. And they've been through way worse. Way worse. Same has happened to us. But not in the same way. We have never had to. वो जो एक partition हुआ था, उसके बाद we've never had to face this, and we have ignored the possibility because no. And you know why we've done that? Because Quaid-e-Azam said so. To be very honest, because that's what I'm seeing popping up. Let's try to be a little bit more realistic about it. So what I was talking about is that. So this past 2-3 years, we saw them the Indian government get more and more emboldened, right? It became like monkey see, monkey do type situation where they started, there was this thing about IDs where they had to have on their IDs what their religion was, all those details. And for over there, this is extremely incriminating. You don't want that living in India or living in any other non-Muslim country where people are persecuted for their religion. And that was a huge uproar where why would you do that? Why would you write that down? In a country like Pakistan, it doesn't matter. Maybe it's not so ideal for Christians or Hindus living here, but for us it doesn't matter. And I feel like there's no need for that to even be a thing over here, and that's a separate conversation. But over there, it actually becomes persecution, where your life is in danger if that becomes a thing. And then there's a lot of other things that are attached to it: your job, your work, your studies, your visas, your just travel in general. And then later on, just within the two years span, the government started digging up old titles of property, the business owners and different kinds of property of old historical buildings and whatnot India mein, and jo partition se pehle jo ownership thi, and they started giving those ownerships back to Hindus. Ab jo Musliman ownership the, for a lot of places they didn't want to give up their ownership to those places, but they didn't have a choice. उनको चॉइस नहीं दी जा रही थी, and they just were supposed to give it back. तो एक जगह ऐसे हुआ कि मस्जिद में जो जिस वक्त निवासी वहाँ पर थे, उन्होंने वहाँ पर आके पुलिस ने उनसे कहा कि खाली करो, दिस इज़ नॉट योर लैंड एनी मोर, पार्टीशन से पहले ये सो एंड सो को बिलोंग करता था. पार्टीशन के वक्त ऐसा बहुत कुछ हुआ which was also unfair, you know, I'm sure they're not wrong about that, but at that time whoever owns that land, it's not that person's fault. You know, decades and decades have gone by, and now you're telling this person that they have to leave. So the people who were praying in that masjid, they kind of locked themselves inside the masjid. I'm sure you've heard of that. और इस तरह की 2-3 different चीज़ें हुई कि they locked themselves inside the masjid, and एक आध पूरे दिन तो police just kept asking them to come outside, and when they didn't, the police literally started shooting the civilians inside the masjid. These people who had come to pray in the masjid obviously were not armed, and the Indian police started shooting them. Walaikum assalam. But there was no uproar about it, nobody cared, and these kinds of things continued. They kept happening throughout the past 2 years. I mean, they happened before that too, but the amount of this kept piling up. It was, you know, so closer together, so much of it, and it kept happening. And you know, it's interesting that even people from Pakistan didn't raise our voices for these people. I think we were thinking that we will be protected, that it will not come down to us, but that never happens, you see. If you're complicit, if you're quiet in times like these, you become an easier target. Because then the enemy thinks, oh, they will be an easy mark. And that is what we are right now. We are a very, very easy mark. And that's what we need to understand, that this is not today that India has just woken up and said, oh, hey, let's do this. I mean, yeah, Israel has emboldened them, for sure. They've found a partner in crime, and they've watched this on this blown up screen, and they've thought, oh, if they can get away with this in such a large stage, then surely, who cares about little old Pakistan sitting in some corner? Although it's not that simple, of course, and we have made it very easy by not caring about anybody else around us. Not even our own people who we had to leave behind in India, or our own people in Kashmir, or, you know, our counterparts in Bangladesh. We seem to not care. There are many ways to fight a war. You don't just have to drop bombs on people. And I don't know how we'll do when bombs are being dropped. I don't know. It's only been 2 days. I don't know if there are any more coming or not. But we have lost every other kind of war. And from day one, I was saying, हम ऐसे एक्ट कर रहे हैं कि जैसे जो कुछ मिडल ईस्ट में हो रहा है, जो कुछ फ़लस्तीन के साथ हो रहा है, या यमन के साथ हो रहा है, या लेबनान और हर जगह हो रहा है, वो हम पर नहीं आएगा. कि अगर हम उधर तवज्जो नहीं देंगे या उनकी तरफ नहीं देखेंगे कि यू नो जस्ट लाइक ब्लाइंडर्स, कि हमें कुछ नज़र नहीं आ रहा और हमें कुछ, हमारे साथ कुछ नहीं हो रहा है इधर उधर, बस फोकस एंड कीप वॉकिंग स्ट्रेट, तो ये हम पर नहीं आएगा. तो वी आर एब्सोल्युटली रॉन्ग अबाउट दैट. आई डोंट नो इफ इट्स soon enough to wake up. I don't know, but I'm hoping it's not too late. You know, there's a time that, okay, I've woken up just in time, we can start the work before we get to the point where it's late. But at least it's too much damage hasn't been done. So like I said, I'm not here to give you a news report on what's happening. Yeah, Shazia says it's never too late. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I'm just kind of right now very disappointed in Pakistan and Pakistani youth, because, you know, from day one, when things got super bad after October 7th, my thing every time I spoke to the youth in Pakistan, that was my thing, that if you think that this is not going to turn around and become our problem someday, don't. You have to, we have to start working to save them so we can save ourselves, because you could see, the tides turning, and you could see the boldness that, the Indian government was, and even the change in the way some of the Hindus who belonged to that part or that side of that belief system spoke. So yeah. Maybe it's still not too late. So yeah, like I said, it's not going to be that. And this government, the Indian government, has always wanted to exterminate any other religion, anybody other than their type, their kind of religion, Hindu religion that you have. They're not going to. वो ये भी नहीं, उनको सिख से भी प्रॉब्लम है, जो रिलीजियस सिक्स हैं उनसे भी, उनको और तरह के भी जो डिफरेंट हिंदू सेक्ट्स हैं उनसे भी प्रॉब्लम है. बट ऑफ कोर्स मुसलमानों से तो हर एक को the most problem है. So the other thing I wanted to explain is that whenever we talk about the one place that everybody can agree is, oh no, I wasn't, anytime somebody attacks somebody and then the other party retaliates, and all they have to say is, no, I didn't attack civilians, I was attacking a terrorist base. And the question, everybody just kind of says, even if they've killed only innocent people, even if they have no proof to show bodies of these so-called terrorists or any kind of proof of military gear, weapons, nothing, all the world's powers will step back and just be like, okay, let's think about it. They will not, like when right now, when the Indian government said, no, but we did not attack any civilians, we only attacked terrorists or terrorist areas or whatever. We keep hearing that, but we are not hearing the question from anybody other than the Pakistani authorities who are saying, no, these were not terrorist bases. No, nobody else in the world is saying, all right, you're claiming these are terrorist bases. Pakistani government is saying they're not terrorist bases. Show us the proof, right? But they have nothing to show for it. What made you think? What was your surveillance? Where are the people that you thought were terrorists? Where is the weaponry? Nobody questions it. Because here's another thing we need to understand, that the world has agreed upon this. I don't know what kind of delusional world that we're living in, that we don't think that this is agreed upon. World is agreed upon this. That somewhere, if somebody's saying that we are terrorists, well, might be right. Even if we're innocent, maybe one or two of us, maybe. I mean, if we're going to the masjid, if these people were all going to the masjid, if they were in the masjid, how innocent can they really be? At the end of the day, that's the question they all ask. People like Modi, people like Netanyahu, people like Trump, all of these people. That is why when you attack a masjid, they're not just going to say, dude, why would you attack a place of worship? They would say, oh, it was a masjid? Oh, they're claiming everybody in there was innocent? Well, it was a masjid, right? So we need to be now very aware of what we are to them. And it sounds very well and good to say कि नहीं हर कोई ऐसा नहीं सोचता. Individuals की बात नहीं कर रही हूँ मैं. ठीक है ना? I'm not talking about the Indian public. I'm not talking about the American public. None of that. I'm talking about all of the politicians, all of the big leaders. We have to understand that we have to be in that place कि हमको ये understanding हो कि वी हैव टू बी रेडी कि हमें वहाँ पे कोई डिफेंस नहीं मिलेगी. हमें ये नहीं होगा कि दिस पर्सन इज़ बेटर देन दिस पर्सन, ये पॉलिटिशियन इज़ बेटर देन दैट पॉलिटिशियन, और वो थोड़ी सी lenient government है और वो थोड़ी सी lenient government. No, that's not going to happen. So we need to be ready with what we can do to protect ourselves and other people, other countries like us, other nations, other people like us. I hope the point I'm trying to make is getting through कि ये नहीं होता है कि हम कोई हमारे लिए अच्छा है या कोई हमारे लिए बुरा है. They're all the same for us. And we need to start considering कि जो हमारे neighbors हैं या हमारे Muslim but brothers and sisters हैं, also it doesn't even matter if they're Muslim, to be very honest, if they are being occupied and they are being killed and maimed and murdered, massacred in the ways that the people in Palestine are being, treated, we should be ready to help. Because we know what it feels like. I mean, we personally don't know what it feels like, but our grandparents and great-grandparents know what it feels like. And we always have had the fear of sitting at our border. And today, now, right now, it's much closer than it's ever been in our lifetime, at least. So I think we should have been ready for that. We should have been helping them from way before. But I think our help for them and our concern for them should become much greater. And I know you're probably thinking कि ये तो इंडिया पाकिस्तान की बात हो रही थी, तो फ़लस्तीन को लेके बैठ गई. But that is the point. हम जब तक एक दूसरे की strength नहीं बनेंगे, हमको in this world, जैसे मैंने कहा ना कि everybody outside of our circle thinks of us as ये तो होंगे ही, इनका तो है ही. Unless we become each other's strength, we cannot be strong enough to fight all the outside forces. The people who think that we are terrorists, the people who think that we are in the wrong for whatever reason, people we have not hurt, people we have not done anything to, like in this situation, Pakistan has not done anything, but we are still the terrorists in this situation. If you open the news media, in the US news media or British news media, generally that's how people are talking. That's how those news reporters are talking. When they talk about it, they say, "Oh yeah, Pakistan has not accepted responsibility, but India says." And then when they go into commentary, they say things like, "But as history shows, Pakistan is an Islamist, which means breeds terrorist country, and a lot of terrorists came out of there. I mean, I don't know if I want to believe the country who hid the culprit for 9/11 for years over India, he really hasn't done anything." There's plenty of things in India, if you want to go by that logic, there's plenty of things that India has done that we can name, that we talked about now, but we can also name that affect the larger world other than just Muslim. So that is how things are unraveling outside of the country, outside of Pakistan, or outside of the Muslim world. So we need to stand by each other, and that's exactly how, up until this point, जब तक public को clear नहीं हुई picture फ़लस्तीन की कि वहाँ पे वाकई में these people were not the terrorists, इनके पास वो जिसे कहते हैं ना tools ही नहीं है, वो capability ही नहीं है, they don't even have the money to be able to commit terrorist acts. So that's when people actually woke up, and even their government जो थोड़ा बहुत बोलती है, अब जो भी government का part है वो इसलिए बोलते हैं कि they will lose their votes, they will lose their public if they don't. So if we don't support each other and we don't stand for each other, then we become weaker and weaker on the world stage. अभी भी जो थोड़ी बहुत strength अब फ़लस्तीन की develop हो रही है, वो इसलिए हो रही है कि they have public, दूसरे मुल्कों की public in their corner. We need to be in their corner, so at some point, not just them, but other people in the world can be in their corner in the real way, in a way where we can support them with real money and real effort, whatever that looks like for you. And I know that right now is it probably feels like, well, look at our situation. We're afraid to leave the house. And yeah, right now I'm gonna end with, our situation and what we're going to do now. Right now, the best thing to do for ourselves, हम पाकिस्तानियों के लिए right now, कि of course make dua, and हमारे जितने भी इख्तलाफ हैं आर्मी से, जितनी भी प्रॉब्लम्स हैं पिछले दिनों जो कुछ भी 2-3 साल में हुआ, of course we disagree with the army on many things. लेकिन एक बात जो पाकिस्तानियों की है, जो definitely, we all have to, I have to commend Pakistanis and we all have to, कि जब ऐसी सूरत हाल आती है तो we all stand behind our army. And our army is really good in this situation, right? They know what they're doing. बाकी जो जिस वक्त होना है वो तो होना है, and we just have to be strong about it. And inshallah we'll live to see another day, serve our country, serve Allah. That's the biggest hope. And yeah, that's all I can say. There's no I'm not going to go into false narrative of either everything is going to be okay or we're the best nation in the world or whatnot. We have the same problems everybody has, and of course we love our country. No matter जो भी हमारे problems है और जैसे भी हमारे problems है, जो भी issues है, it is our country, and we will all continue to make sacrifices for our country. And the one thing I will say though, कि आप में से जिनके बच्चे हैं, ज़ाहिर है बहुत छोटे बच्चे नहीं, but over 10, उनको ज़रूर सिचुएशन का समझा दें, बिकॉज राइट नाउ हम बहुत ही अननोन सी सिचुएशन में हैं, क्योंकि वी डोंट नो कि कौन सी जगह पे किस जगह पे कब क्या हो रहा है. तो ऑफ कोर्स वन ऑफ द थिंग्स इज स्टे एट होम प्लीज. जस्ट अ कपल ऑफ थिंग्स I should say, not to scare anybody, but just the real situation that I should be presenting, I guess is my duty to present to you. Have to-go bags ready, especially for people with kids. Just make a small, if you have little kids, just make a small to-go bag, put very important essentials in it and some food. Just, you never know what's happening in the next couple of days. So that should be sitting by the door if you have to leave. किसी भी reason से, if you have to leave the house, you can just grab it and go. उसमें छोटे मोटे खाने की चीज़ें तो ज़रूर डाल लें बच्चों के हिसाब से, और बहुत भारी ना करें उसको. और अगर बच्चे बहुत छोटे हैं तो कपड़े उनके लिए के एक आध दिन की चेंजिंग के लिए, just if you have to go to safety if something particular happens आपके एरिया में. One thing. दूसरा, घर में कुछ दिनों की, maybe for a week, खाने पीने की चीज़ें non-perishable, like canned food, और ऐसी चीज़ जो आप फ्रीज़र में डाल सकें जो फ्रीज़ हो जाएं, because कुछ पता नहीं होता, बाज़ वक़्त ब्लैक आउट भी हो जाता है, तो ऐसी चीज़ जो फ्रीज़ हुई हुई हो तो एक आध दिन निकाल भी लें तो ठंडी रहे. ये नॉन पेरिशेबल जो बाहर आपकी अलमारी में कैबिनेट में आराम से रह सके, और एक हफ्ते का फूड इस तरह से जो ख़राब वगैरह ना होने के चांसेस ना हो. You should have that. And this is for especially people with kids. So these are a few things that I would definitely recommend that you have with you. And about talking to your kids about this, kids over 10, explain to them what's happening in a way that they can understand, because it's confusing when we are updating ourselves, we're watching or reading in front of them and not telling them, and telling them that everything is okay. Kids pick up on these things, because I can only give you my example of what we felt and what the atmosphere was. Half of Lahore could hear, the explosion sounds and then the firing, and my kids were in school, they heard it, and they were, they came home, they were like, oh, there was, we heard the explosion and then there was firing, and even after they came home, they were like, oh, we heard that. Is that firing? Is that happening at the... I was like, yeah. So I figured it's better to explain to them, and they may be scared, but they're scared either way. Once you explain it to them in a certain way, which is age appropriate, and they understand what's happening, but you don't say it in a way which scares them even more. You explain to them how these things happen, and you explain to them you can't guarantee them their safety, you can't guarantee them your safety, But you can guarantee them Allah's protection. You can guarantee them. Then Allah will never burden them or you more than you can handle. And you can also guarantee them that after every hardship, there is ease. And you can tell them कि अभी वो घर पे हैं, वो safe हैं, they have everything that they could need, alhamdulillah, and they're not in any kind of immediate danger, and for them to focus on that. And after you've explained this to them, avoid watching news or discussing this issue over and over again in front of them. I mean, of course, they found out today because of this, my children, so I explained it to them, and I told them details. I mean, not so much detail, not in a way that we discussed it right now, or that we've been watching in the, all of that, but I explained it to them, what is happening, why it's happening. But after that, we don't talk about it. I just tell them, okay, whenever you think about it, it comes to your mind, tasbih kar lo, and just stuff like that, ki ye dua paro, this is, and just remember Allah is always with you and He will not burden you. And if you feel like you're feeling under whatever those जो चीज़ें आप अपने बच्चे को समझाती हैं और चीज़ों से सुकून देने के लिए और रिलीफ करने के लिए पेन से या और distract करने के लिए, do that. But don't keep them in the dark and say everything is okay, because that's not going to happen, because they have friends. They know people outside of just you and your husband and their siblings. They're going to hear about it, and then they will feel a disconnect, and then they'll feel more afraid and more confused. You see? So try to be just explain a little bit more and just be available. I'll tell them it's okay if you want to come sit with me or you want to come be with me, because today their bedroom is upstairs and mine is downstairs, and my husband's out of the country. He's stuck in Saudi or Dubai or somewhere. He's supposed to come last night, but the airspace is closed, so they sleep upstairs. And today I was telling them just, I'm going to be stuck here with you guys. So I told them just get ready for bed and go upstairs. And then they said, can we ask the Baji to make our beds in the guest room next to your room, because we want to sleep down here. And I knew why it was, because they were a little bit shaken, especially because they heard the blast and whatnot. And I said, okay. And I know that they're a little bit shaken. I know they're going to lie down here, and I'll go talk to them, kind of calm them down, and and I know that halfway through the night they'll come in the bedroom and lie down with me, which is fine. So just let them have their own way of dealing with it, and allow them to have that. So that's all I have for you. I hope this was helpful in many, many ways, and please open your hearts and your minds to other people. I know for me to say that while we are going through the things that we're going through sounds a little insensitive, but at the same time, these are the times that make you realize what other people have been going through, and which is nothing. Which is what we're going through is nothing compared to what they're going through, right? So, and we need to understand that these are people who are trying to hurt us right now, have learned from those people who have constantly been hurting those people. So, we need to pick our allies and strength, and find that in Allah, find that in the Quran, and in our army, right? Isn't that weird, me talking about the army like that? But they come through for us. They have in the past, right? So they usually come through. Yeah. All right. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And we will be back. I will be back on Tuesday. And our topic is the same topic we're trying to do 2-3 weeks ago. And then that day I couldn't get on. And then I kind of got sick. I'm having a lot of tooth issues, and I've been going to the dentist like every week, sometimes twice a week. And then you can't talk after you've been to the dentist. Can't talk for a few days, couple of days, and then it's the next appointment. If everything is on schedule, inshallah, and everything stays well, we will be talking about feminism, Islamic feminism versus Western feminism. There were no other ways to term it, so that's why we termed it like that, Western feminism. Alright, have a good day, good night, good morning, wherever you are, and we will see you soon.